Who's going to rule the industrial IoT? That's a question we're going to talk about. The next topic it will be the Davids and Goliaths of industrial internet.
That's right. And we will be welcoming 5 people onto the stage. Here as our guest, we are going to have Inka Mero from Pivot 5. She is a startup investor and also nowadays a board executive at Pivot 5. Also, we are going to have Petri Vilén, who is the CEO of Industry Hack. He's previously also worked with several projects that included Slush. It is not his first time here. And also Basmi Hussain from ABB. This is a person who has worked over 30 years at ABB Group. And ABB Group has over 140 employees around the world. He is the Chief Technology Officer at ABB.
Also, we will have a guy who has experience in both public and the private sectors in several international teams. He's Vincent Champagne, and he is the General Manager of GE Digital EU Foundry. And the last one, we will have Curtis Sasaki from Samsung. He is the recipient of over 7 patents for innovative technologies. And at the moment, he is the Vice President of Ecosystems for Samsung Strategy and Innovation Center. Yes. Please give a big hand to Petri, Basmi, Vincent, Curtis, and Inka.
Wow.
You can come there. Right.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So the topic today is industrial internet, or the internet of really big things. So basically, where I want to focus today is not on the technology itself. I think we have a pretty educated audience here, but more on how the industrial internet changes the competition and business models in traditional industries. So industries like energy, maritime, logistics, and so forth, which are facing big disruption. And the CEO of GE, Jeff Immelt, said last year that every industrial company will have to become a software and analytics company. So I want to begin with this. So basically, GE, so you started as the, as you said, Uber of candles back 124 years ago. So how, as a company, GE is transforming in this age of digitalization?
So this transformation is key for us, and there are many reasons for this. First one is, cost of hardware. If you take a chip like this, it costs $2. It has 4,000 times the processing power of Apollo 11. If you look at what you can do, it means that for $2 you can improve machine, you can save millions to industrial company. So the key for us is now how we can provide still the physical world, the gas turbine, the airplane engine, and let our customer take the full benefits of digital, which leads us to become a digital industrial company. Not only digital, not more anymore in the physical world, but having new talents, capability to develop apps very quickly and roll them up to customers, and a new capability to find the needle of value into the haystack of industrial data.
Okay. And how about ABB? So Basmi, you are working as the CTO of ABB. It's a big company, 140,000 people working, and you have a basically R&D force of 8,000 people. So how do you transform from traditional power and robotics industries? How do you transform also into digitalization?
I think we do several things. One is an organizational element of that transformation. We recently appointed a chief digital officer, which then coordinates the activities across the company, because historically ABB has been more vertically focused, so we want to keep that vertical focus, but keep the now have the horizontal commonality. And second, change the ecosystem. Work with partners so that we can move with speed, so we don't have to reinvent something like cloud technologies. Work with the best partners out there, and work with startups for speed and innovation. So it's changing this ecosystem, changing the organization, and drive it from the top.
Okay. And also Samsung. So basically Samsung is mostly known about from consumer electronics. You also, of course, have a big history on semiconductors and electronics manufacturer. But how does tell about your role within Samsung, and what is Samsung's role in the industrial IoT?
Sure. So, most people know Samsung has all of the consumer products that we actually sell, but actually that's given us a lot of experience in terms of what it takes to actually make connected products. And since we are one of the large semiconductor companies in the world, we bring sort of the key components in the hardware side to IoT. So processors, memory technologies, display technologies, sensor technologies, and we're able to integrate it very efficiently. But it's way beyond that. You have to actually think about what are the cloud services that get connected to it. So our role really is to take our knowledge from the product side, leverage our semiconductor business, have a cloud solution, and build an end-to-end platform that other companies can actually benefit from.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Inka, so you are basically on both sides of the sort of the battle here.
I'm David and Goliath.
Yes. So
One person.
you sit on a board of 3 publicly listed companies, and in construction, tires, and consumer design. Yes, and basically also investing in a lot of startups, working with industrial internet startups as well. So how do you see sort of the emerging opportunities in digitalization, and sort of taking sort of a bit peek preview on both sides of the aisle? So what happens in big companies, the boardrooms, and then what are the opportunities for startups?
Well, I think when we're events like this, it's self-evident. Technology is eating the world, and software is eating the world, and we see huge macro trend kind of happening. All of these accelerating developments really shifting actually traditional industries. And we've seen that actually happening in the consumer side. We think about what happened to the taxi industry or the hotel industry or gaming. And that is now really happening in the industrial side as well. It's not that evident yet in the boardrooms. I think all the boards have kind of awoken to the fact that, yes, you need to digitalize your operations. You need to be more efficient, let's say, vertically or horizontally. And there are new initiatives to build capabilities like digital platforms or new products and services. But really what will be the kind of a next generation industrial company? I would actually boldly claim that only few players have a clear vision on that. So I think bigger companies are getting more and more into this trial mode. And that's what we've seen in the tire business or design side. That really doesn't matter. I think the problems that the bigger companies and challenges that they're facing are more or less quite universal.
Yeah. Okay, so basically on the industry internet is changing a lot the whole competitive landscape. And basically, like Michael Porter said that it's not in the industry of things that change or the connectivity that changes, but it's the different kind of things and how the products are turning into services, like Rolls-Royce is turning from engine manufacturer into providing the data from the engine and using that data to produce sort of engine as a service, and then also selling the insights from that data to air travel. So what kind of examples I would like to hear that you are seeing on the competitive landscape? So how you are entering new markets, and basically if there are some interesting competition that you are facing within the markets that you are. So Basmi, can you start?
Yeah, when you look at digitalization, I think it has an impact both on the product side, but also on new business opportunities, both for our customers as well as for ourselves. From the product side, it is really to improve the performance, you know, I mean, to go from a mode where you are, you know, maintaining and optimizing the performance based on historical data to something that is condition-based in real time, you know, real-time condition-based monitoring. That, of course, differentiation then moves from physical differentiation to digital differentiation in the sense that based on the sensing, the analysis that you have on the sensing, you can optimize the equipment. You don't have to take it down unless it has to be taken down for maintenance.
Yeah.
So you work with knowledge. But also, when we first started into this, we have several offerings across ABB. ABB, since we work also with the customer's processes, we have over 70,000 of our control systems that are installed in the field. Together, they have about 70 million plus, you know, devices, intelligent devices that are connected. So, and we have been in this space for some years. And one of the things that when we started was to really look at how do we improve the performance of our equipment. And we were, as an example, to the marine industry, you know, all the 90,000 vessels that are out there in the sea, the condition, because they are moving all the time, we could do that with satellite. But as we got into that, we realized that what little information the people on the ship, the captain of the ship, had to make decisions, which was beyond the equipment. Okay, for instance, how to plan the route in case the weather is going bad, you know, depending on the cargo that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And what we are doing now is offering services that we did not do earlier, could not do earlier, which is great benefit for the customer and great benefit to us. So it is going beyond actually just improving the equipment performance and the benefits from that.
That's very exciting. Inka, I saw actually a news today on one of your companies where you're board. So Nokian Renkaat announced a product that scans the tires and sort of gives data on top of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a great example of kind of deploying various technologies and providing, let's say, better brand promise, which is really at the end of the day best performance on the road and the security. But I think it's a good example of like bigger company being fairly innovative with a smaller player, deploying that technology, scanning the tire and telling like, you know, what is this, you know, does it need more air pressure or do you need to change your tire? But I think it's a, you know, small incremental example like how value can be created. But then over time, you know, better kind of a vision would be, you know, someone just, you know, telling you that, Petri, you need new tires. Yeah. And in that sense, like no scanning as a process from the customer experience point of view. So I think technology can allow a lot of new innovative business models where industrial players necessarily aren't that good is really kind of a building those concepts and building those consumer experiences. Because if you think about energy, mobility, even, you know, B2B, where you always have a lot of people on the work field, you need to build this experience that people actually like to interact with your products and services. And that's the skill, I think, why bigger companies need to also work with startups.
Yeah. So Curtis, so you are basically working with the Arctic platform and enabling quite a lot of companies to develop new IoT, industrial IoT solutions on top of your basically electronics and then providing that as a platform. What kind of examples have you seen on the industrial side that take use of the platform?
Yeah, I think first maybe I'll mention one of the studies that was recently done in North America showed that 40% of IT budget is moving to IoT already. And that was kind of surprising. But we see some pretty interesting examples. One simple one that a startup has actually done for Australia is pretty spread out country, and there's utility poles everywhere. There's like 1 million utility poles. And when a pole goes down, they didn't know where to send the trucks. So a very simple sensor that has an accelerometer, has a wireless mesh network, can communicate back the location, and they send out trucks. But the more innovative part of it was the business model. it wasn't about selling a device. It was a subscription service.
Yeah.
And that actually made the utilities excited because there's no, capex. It was all opex.
Yeah.
That's a pretty simple example. One of our other customers is developing things for future digital health area, taking what looks like an espresso coffee machine device and actually using it for blood tests, for cholesterol.
Yeah.
But in that example, the more interesting part was the actual test then communicates back to a cloud, and the cloud actually talks to other devices like a Fitbit, a Withings scale, and that's all timestamped together, and that data then goes to your physician. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Vincent, you are a company of more than 300,000 employees, and you are in sort of the biggest, basically, industrial company or one of the biggest industrial companies in the world, and working in very multiple different areas. So, have you had to rethink as a company that what business are we in, and can you share some examples of the new areas that you are entering?
So things are really changing a lot. I mean, just take Airbnb. Airbnb, it's a leading company in hotel services. They own no hotel. Uber, leading transportation company, tens of billions of turnover, they own no car. So when you're a company building assets and making money out of building assets or operating assets, I mean, you really need to think about it. And when we did this, you basically go down to the key strategic question. And the key strategic question are the following. What can I do better than the rest of the world? And where should I be better than the rest of the world tomorrow to stay a leader? That's the two questions we ask. And it had lots of disrupting consequences. So the first finding was first that digital industrial is a big thing. We think that digital industrial will be twice as big as the consumer internet. Very, very big. Second thing, physical world is here to stay. You won't have tomorrow someone coming to Air France or Lufthansa and telling the company, okay, scrap your old airplane engine. I did one in my garage. I put my engine in your plane. It won't happen. So who owns the physical has good chance to be strong in this world. But it's not enough. You need to master the digital, and you need to understand which part of the digital you master, which are the algorithms that you need to master to be the leader tomorrow. Tomorrow's world won't be the same as today's world. Last thing, we think that the model industrial will be a bit different than what we saw in consumer. For example, we think that it's not about changing a model, disrupting totally a company. It's really about mixing the old world and new world. So it could be a play for a startup, which makes an application helping industrial company to evolve. It's also a play for a company like G, which was a startup 124 years ago, to become editor and selling a platform which helps industrial customers to build their own apps and to focus on what they can do better than the other, meaning operating their assets, having the higher performance and the higher reliability for their assets. For example, it can be how you ensure that your wind turbine are coordinated with your gas engine in a way that you optimize the way your wind turbine works. And if you do this, you have a greener electricity, you have a lower cost of renewable, and you make the world better while making a profit in the same time.
Okay, thank you. As a third topic, I want to move on to, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs and startups in the audience, and it's sort of Slush is all about celebrating startups and giving the next generation of founders the best platform to grow and prosper. So basically, Accenture just recently announced that corporate innovation is dead. So that doesn't work, and that big companies have difficulties to work, to sort of innovate with themselves. So basically, 80% of all Fortune 1000 companies want to collaborate with startups. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. And you all have sort of different kind of experiences already on that kind of partnership. So Basmi, you started a venture unit about 7 years ago. So can you tell about what is the way that, how do you see as a company the open innovation and sort of is it more on investing that you invest in startups, or do you also collaborate, do joint innovation, or how do you collaborate with startups?
First of all, from our venturing perspective, we always have a strategic element in that. And what that means is that it has to link up with one of the businesses that we are doing or extending a business that we are doing. So there is always an involvement of the business to work together with the startup, both to get what's happening in the startup, but also to provide value to the startup in terms of the domain knowledge and what is needed in what is required from the industry. That knowledge, I think, is what we bring on board. We don't typically co-invent anything with them. That is
why is that?
Because IP, I think, has to be clear, so we don't really co-invent. But what we do is we develop. In many cases, we actually, at early stages, start to integrate the output of those startups into our products and run pilots there. So that way, there's a learning for both the companies. It's faster speed for us, and it is more knowledge as to what is required in the market. So access to customers, access to what customers are thinking of, that's what we bring on board.
Okay, thank you. So Curtis, so basically you have a 100 million annual fund basically to invest in startups, and you personally are working a lot with startups. So how do you see sort of, and Samsung is pretty open in the ecosystem, so how do you see sort of the collaboration with different players and different kind of sizes of players?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways. One, if your product can apply to the, Samsung's product teams who make either phones or tablets or TVs, that's more of a short-term sort of business development type of relationship. There's other technologies that more are speculative, but we're always looking for that special speculative technology areas. That's where things like our Catalyst Fund comes into play. That's for early stage investments.
Yeah.
So we look at both. Things that might be short-term, some things that might be 3 to 5 years out, and we'll make investments there.
Okay. How about GE? So basically, you are, Vincent, you are running the GE Digital Foundry in Europe, and Digital Foundry is collaborating a lot with sort of in the ecosystem, trying to be the open platform. So can you tell about sort of your experience on sort of working in the ecosystem, and also building the sort of you have an industrial basically app store. So can you tell a bit more about the opportunities that you provide, and how do you collaborate with startups?
Yes, we're doing a lot of things even here in Finland. I mean, on healthcare, we have a health imagination village, an energy village, and I invite everybody to go to our booth to talk about this. And we love working with startups, and we're hiring a lot on data science and engineering. But basically, what you want to do, you want to create energy. Energy is mass multiplied by speed to the square. Mass is what big company will bring. They have the international scale, they have the resources, they can invest in big investment innovation. Speed is what small companies have. They are more agile, they can bet their full company on an idea. Nobody would this as a big company. And they are able to try, fail, and retry much more than big company. So any approach making the assumption that big companies don't innovate will fail. Any assumption based on the fact that small company can do everything or will be less innovative, of course, will fail. And you really succeed when you do this and really do this topic with real engineer. I mean, Samsung, you're both in charge of ecosystem, you own patents. The person in charge of ecosystem in the foundry was brass medal for the National Research Association. He's a real scientist, a real engineer. And we should avoid what I call digital washing. It's easy to invite startups, to make some PR, and to make communication about it. So for the big company and also for the startup, I would advise you to go to the place where you do the real stuff. because it's the real stuff that brings success, sustainable success.
Yeah. So Inka, you're as a sort of a double agent on both sides. So how do you see the collaboration between the large companies and the startups? And sort of, can you share some? You have some sort of good examples on your portfolio companies.
Sure. For example, Indoor Atlas, indoor positioning company, Baidu invested to this guy, and these guys are working very intensively in China with Baidu and also with Yahoo in Japan. So there are many of examples, and I would say like, we can agree on one thing. Every single big corporation is going to do venturing in the future, and if they're not doing it as of today. So the question is like, from the strategy point of view, I think there are two questions. Like, how do you make your existing business to execute super well from the corporate point of view and do the business development and be optimizing the profitability and the growth? And how do you do something disruptive? And my question in a way always for the bigger companies is that, is your mechanism to work with startup better than the others? Because everyone else is trying to do the same thing. So it actually means that you need to have a better vision. The corporation also has to have a better ways to work with the startups. And I think you need the whole tool set. You need the internal incubator to build your own internal initiatives, create entrepreneurship culture. You need to engage the top management with the startups. You need to do your own venture fund and venture investments and everything in the between. Because that's your toolbox. And hackathons, that's your toolbox as of today. So I think, there are a lot of good and bad examples, but for example, with Baidu, coming back to the reality is that they were very agile, because they come from the internet time. Average age in the company is below 30. So it's a little bit a faster paced culture, and China is a super competitive market. So I think having that common goal and doing something concrete with the startup, whether it's small or big, is extremely important to gain some value.
Okay, thank you. So I guess that was a good closing line for the discussion. I think this discussion could go on and on. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I think as a conclusion, we could say that there are no basically David and Goliaths in the industrial internet. The scene is just opening. We are still sort of about to see a lot of opportunities arising. And the large companies can work as a good platform for startups to start doing their next world-conquering Ubers in the industrial space. So I guess I want to thank you, the panelists. I want to thank you, the audience, for listening, and hope to see more of industrial startups also in the future at Slush.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.